Okay, so we have a pretty busy week with our work. So I think I figured out I'm actually not going to need to keep you guys too long today. Happy Monday, by the way. Thanks for being here. We got a short week and we got to wrap up vocab test business. We need to take a grammar test and we have MCQ, FRQ coming up on Wednesday and Thursday. And one more series of videos that I'm going to ask you to watch today. So I think that's probably enough to get ready. And I was going to do a whole look into another chapter in the Perrine on illusion, but I just don't think we need that. You've had a couple of videos that you just watched on it, and we've been looking at an illusion for a great part of the first semester, and picked that up more recently, looking at different examples of illusions every Wednesday, right? So it's not that complicated. See here. There we go. Okay, so a little bit more sequentially here. So vocab 9 unit is going to be starting this week. We do want to keep moving on that. And since it's a short week, we want to go ahead and finish that by tomorrow night. If you haven't already, obviously you need to do your corrections and put that on the new post for the vocab test 8 test. And I'm sorry I was a little bit late in getting those up, but that shouldn't take you long, right? No big deal or pressure, but get your full test credit. Grammar Unit 2 test is posted. We want to finish that by tomorrow night. AP Classroom, we did notes on 4 videos on comparison, pretty much on extended metaphor, personification, and illusion, right? We'll chat about those in a minute here. And then, like I said, we want to do all 5 videos on writing arguments for the poetry FRQs by tonight, so we can have a good talk about that tomorrow. I have finished grading your short fiction, prose, FRQs from last time, and the only thing I need to decide is kind of what scale I'm going to put those on for grades, and those will be going up probably sometime during the school day today, and then you guys can read your feedback, and then we can talk about it tomorrow. We're going to have pretty much the same exact length, development, organization, and rubric expectations for this one as we do with the short fiction. So we're going to be looking for, that concise, intro. We're going to be looking for 2 body paragraphs that each make a claim and that each have a couple pieces of evidence. And we say evidence, we mean passages, we mean quotes. And then although a conclusion isn't required, you do need to figure out some way to either weave in or add some extra stuff that's going to establish one of those sophistication points. And a lot more of you are getting that this time, but some of you are still definitely not. You're getting caught up in finishing just your argument, and you're not broadening it out to universalizing it, giving some alternative interpretations. And that's going to be okay. Maybe if you wrote your butt off and you're really trying hard on your own, diction and artful sentences and things like that, sometimes you can still achieve that sophistication point. But many of you are still not getting that. I did have several people who got full credit, all 5 points on the essay, but it's kind of all over the place below that. But don't worry, I'm not going to make people fail per se, even on the bottom end of that scale, because I know it's only, there's only so many divisions of grades on there. You can write a lot and understand the passage, but not really thoroughly answer an AP prompt the way you're supposed to. That's what we need to remember. Okay, so let's chat a little bit about those videos that you watched. A lot of it, like she said, our favorite teacher, this is pretty review related, right? Metaphors are used to compare things that otherwise might be unrelated, right? Seemingly unlike things. They emphasize quality about them, and they convey perspective, right? And in a more detailed sense, what we need to remember, when she's putting those quotations versus the qualities or perspective, what you're really talking about is you got a figurative half of a metaphor and you have a literal half of a metaphor. Something's really there and something's not really there, right? That's always the case, right? But then for each one of those, one side of it, the figurative might be implied or it might be stated, and the literal might be implied or it might be stated. We had a pretty good example of that there, right? Okay, so remember that's how you break them down. A personification, that is what it is, right? It's making something, sometimes people ask, and actually the example that she went through sounded like it was more like something, as she said, makes it sound like a kitty cat, right? That's still personification. There's no such thing as animification, but if you're bringing something that's an inanimate object more to life by giving it kind of action or volition or personality or something like that, we would still consider that personification, and which in itself is a division of metaphor, right? So in that Wordsworth poem, when it says the sea bears, the wind's howling, spring herself, and all that, what you really need to get to with metaphors and personification is not just that the poet uses them, and not just be able to explain how the poet uses them and what's literal and what's figurative, but why, right? How does that add to meaning? And in that particular poem, since it's talking about a disconnection to nature that we have in what was then Wordsworth's, modern life, for him to talk about the sea bearing and the winds howling and spring herself, things that bring nature to life like it's an actual presence itself, like it's alive, is going to emphasize, how important, how significant of a force that is, and how we should be more connected to it, like we can be connected to a person, or see and understand how a person can do things and have effects on things. All right, and then finally, allusion. And we had an example of allusions because there were some what we call classical, ancient Greek or Roman allusions, Proteus, Triton, in the world is too much with us. And those added depth and resonance to that poem because the speaker is thinking to himself, well, somewhat fancifully, right? Maybe not literally. Maybe if I were a pagan suckled in a creed outworn, in other words, someone who was a member, a citizen in the society of like ancient Greece or something like that, that because of the way that their religions were, which were a lot more connected specifically to different aspects of nature, then maybe he would feel more connected to nature like he wants to, right? And so those allusions kind of make that connection and make that point, as they do in the George Foreman and Zaire, which is a word that's very much a free verse poem, right? We kind of go back to talking about our patterns, right? That poet was doing whatever he wanted to in the way that he wanted to in there, but there's certainly strong use of allusion, especially if you understand the whole rumble in the jungle thing. I don't know how familiar you guys were with that. Okay, so things to keep in mind when we see metaphors, personification, allusions, and poems, so we can let's write those. And okay, so the last ones, just a sec here. Actually, I don't need to go to it. You guys know where they are. So check out those, and then tomorrow we will take a close look at your FRQs. And I know this is probably the most intimidating type of essay, is it not? The poem ones, right? You nod your head because you're afraid that if you look at this and you don't get it, then your ship is sunk, right? I'm not going to give you a poem that I think is impenetrable. Okay, that's there's no use in doing that, and I don't think the ones on the test are going to be like that. I think we've looked at some poems in our Perrine book that are harder than the ones that you're going to see on the test. So I'm not going to try to stump you, but it's going to have many of the things, or at least several of the things that we've talked about in our goals for this poetry unit. And again, we still have time to talk about that tomorrow. So I'm going to live up to my promise here and go ahead and let you guys go. If anybody has any questions before we go, all good. Okay, so watch for those results to appear on AP Classroom. Maybe I'll just give you an announcement and then just keep all that vocab and grammar stuff in mind. A lot of little things going on. Okay, see you guys soon.